and thanks to everyone that's joining us today. My name is Michael Clark. I'm immediate past president at the Conference of Consulting Actuaries. I'm joined today by CCA's current president and president-elect, Maria Sarli and Ellen Kleinstuber. I'll give a quick introduction on both of these two women. So Maria, as I mentioned, is the current president of the CCA. She's a senior resource actuary at Willis Towers Watson, working out of her home near Park City, Utah, although coming to us today from Florida, where she's enjoying a little bit of rest and relaxation. Maria has volunteered in a number of roles within the CCA and also within the profession. She's been a CCA board member, served as the treasurer for the organization for a number of years. She's had various positions on the Actuarial Standards Board, most recently as chairperson of the Actuarial Standards Board Assumptions ASOP Task Force, and she has been on the American Academy of Actuaries Pension Committee. And then along with Maria, we've got Ellen Kleinstuber, who's the current president-elect of the CCA and is the chief actuary at Bolton, working out of her home near Cleveland, Ohio. Ellen also has a long history of volunteer work, including positions within the CCA as treasurer and as a VP of professionalism. She is also a past chairperson of the Academy's Pension Committee and is a former chair of the Enrolled Actuaries meeting. So Maria and Ellen, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Michael.
All right. Well, for those of you that don't know, this is the first time in the CCA's 70-year history that we've had two women in the roles of president and president-elect at the same time. And in fact, historically, there have only been 5 other women that have been president of the CCA. So I want to start on this topic. Can you both talk, and Maria, we'll start with you. Can you talk for a few minutes about what it means to you to be in your respective position as president of the CCA?
Sure. Thanks, Michael. I never really thought of myself as a future president of any organization. I started, as soon as I was done with my exams, I started volunteering for various actuarial organizations, the SOA and the Academy and CCA. And it wasn't really until I started getting much more involved with CCA that I felt a really strong connection to an organization. CCA is a lot smaller than those other organizations. It's very friendly, filled with a lot of very interesting people. And I really want to see this organization grow and thrive. And that's why I decided to throw my hat into the ring for the presidential track. And what I really want to do, you know, it's a privilege to be able to influence this organization to any degree for the future. And what I really want to do is introduce more people to it, get more people to make CCA their professional home. In terms of Ellen and I both being on the presidential track at the same time, I think it's kind of a natural outgrowth of what's been going on with CCA. You know, our profession is probably not as diverse as a lot of other professions, but if you look at the newer, younger members of CCA, it is becoming a lot more diverse. And the nominating committee of the CCA that nominates people for board roles and leadership roles has really made an effort in the last few years to focus on diversity, practice area diversity, and gender and ethnicity. And I think Ellen and I both being where we are today is kind of a natural outgrowth of that effort.
Awesome. Ellen, your thoughts?
Yeah, you know, as I started to think about this, I was like, if you went back and asked, you know, 22-year-old Ellen or maybe even 30-year-old Ellen, you know, would you be chief actuary of your firm someday? I'd be like, my jaw would have hit the floor. And then if you told me that I'd be president-elect of CCA, then I'd start to wonder what kind of alternate universe you were living in, because it was not the one that I was in. And there's a little part of me that's kind of still pinching myself to see if, you know, if being asked to serve in this role and being given the honor of serving this role is real. You know, as Michael said, both Maria and I have spent a lot of years volunteering. And for me, it's been with CCA, a little time with the society and with the academy in a variety of different roles. And each one of those things has taught me something different. But I think it's the time that I spent at CCA on their board of directors in my first kind of 6-year term. It was one of the most rewarding experiences that I've had in my volunteer career. Because, you know, being at CCA, and Maria sort of described this as the professional home. And I think a lot of members feel that same way. We hear that same kind of thing coming out. And, you know, for me, CCA has given me an opportunity to do and learn a lot of different things. And among them were some of the executive leadership skills that go beyond chairing a committee or managing a project or recruiting for a continuing ed session. that have really helped me not only, prepare to be in this role, but be a better chief actuary and be a better consultant and a better manager in my day job. And I want to talk just for a minute about Maria, because I've volunteered with her in a variety of different roles over the years and could not have more respect for the talent that she has as the actuary and the passion that she's going to bring as a leader and a role model in our profession. So when the nominating committee came and asked if I'd be willing to be president of CCA after Maria, I'm like, we'll have some big shoes to fill, following both Maria and Michael. But then the light bulb went off. This would be the first time that we'd have two women together in the presidential line of succession. And so I really just couldn't do anything but say yes to it. So it's just an honor that CCA has entrusted me with helping continue to cultivate opportunities and promote diversity, among our membership, and help improve on how we funnel more people into the profession from diverse backgrounds.
No, I really appreciate those comments, and I wholeheartedly agree with both of you. It's a lot of times when people think about volunteering, and we'll talk more about this later on, they think about giving back to the profession. But I would take the other argument there, which is I've gained so much from volunteering. And to your point, Ellen, it's helped me actually be a better employee within my company. So I think there are benefits there that sometimes go overlooked because there are those skills that you can learn in these volunteer roles that you're most likely not even going to get on the job at your company. So I definitely appreciate that. Ellen, I'll continue on with you here. When you think about the path that's led you to where you're at today, who would you consider to be some of your role models?
Yeah, so Michael, I'll give the people listening a clue. Michael gave me a heads up that this question was coming, and the first thing I started happening was I was running through names of people in my head, and then I realized that I had to stop and think more about this because those were more people who had been mentors and coaches along the way, which was really important to have. But from a role model standpoint, I'm going to start with my parents. They were both a little older when they had me. They were Depression era kids. And so they taught me to work hard, not to expect to have things just handed to me, that if I wanted opportunities, it was my job to put people in a position to want to give me those opportunities. And my mom was one of the most hardworking people I've ever known. And I really wish I'd gotten a little bit more of her get it done gene. So I check a few more things off my to-do list every day. Instead, I got my dad's perfectionist gene, which has its place and is helpful at times, but also makes me struggle with my to-do list a little bit. There's a number of actuaries that I worked with early on in my career, and I'm not going to try and name them because I'm going to forget and miss someone. But I look at the people who were maybe 5 or 6 years into their career when I first started working. And I got to watch how they navigated the early stages in their career. And I saw people with different strengths, different areas that they excelled at, and how they managed to find a path for each of them that was uniquely their own and then leverage those respective strengths. And I think some of that rubbed off on me, even if I didn't really get it at the time what was happening. Because it's hard not to measure yourself against your peers. They're kind of in your class, and how are you doing? So I think that sort of that next group coming ahead of me. And the last thing I'll mention is, when I first started, there weren't a lot of female actuaries in my office or in our company. Most of the senior actuaries were men, but there were a group of ladies in leadership roles in our health consulting practice and our communications consulting practice. And while I didn't work closely with them on a daily basis, we had some common clients. So I did get to see how they navigated the business world, how they worked with clients, how they managed being in the room with the boys, and how each brought their unique style and personality to working with clients and advancing in their careers. And I think that helped me find some of the courage to just be my authentic self, trust that I would then excel in my consulting career, and eventually it's led me to some leadership roles.
Awesome. Maria, same question to you. Who would you consider to be some of your role models?
Well, like Ellen, when I started out, there were not very many senior women at all. I graduated from college in 1981, so we're talking 40 years ago. And the company that I worked for was pretty progressive in terms of hiring young women, promoting people. I never felt at any point that there was any favoritism going on. People were being promoted appropriately. But I really didn't have senior women in the firm at that point to look to as role models. But role models don't have to be women or men. Um, I had a great role model who was a man, and his name was John Wiskowski. He did so much for me. Couple of things that he taught me. The art of reasonableness checking and how to handle mistakes. I would take a report into his office and sit down with him, and he would spend about 10 minutes going through, and then he'd take his long bony finger and point it at a number and say, this one's wrong. And I would get all defensive, obviously, and I would say, no, no. I'd explain how he calculated, I'd explain it was checked, and he would very calmly sit me down and explain how he was able to figure out that it was wrong by looking at the other numbers in the report and by what he knew about the plan. And he took the time to do that, which I really appreciated and helped me a lot. The other thing he taught me was how to handle mistakes. This was, mid 1980s, so the technology was very different back then. I was in charge of a project for one of our clients. It was a big client, about 40,000 active lives, and we were doing a benefit statement project. And these were fancy benefit statements with all different benefits, very heavy paper with the company's logo and name in nice colors, and special envelopes with their name on it and everything. And I ran the whole project. The data was terrible. I cleaned up the data. I designed the statement. I got everything calculated. Everything was perfect. Everything was stuffed. Everything was ready to go. And this fellow, John Wiskowski, was walking past my desk, and I was so proud of how nice that statement looked. I jumped up and showed it to him. And he looked at it for about 10 seconds and he said, down there it says this is your annual Social Security benefit, but you've printed the monthly benefit. So I was completely mortified at that point. And he just got this little smile on his face and he just said, fix it. And he walked away. And I had to go back. I had to call the client, let them know. And they were a business products company. So they had actually, manufactured the paper and all the envelopes. So I had to, come completely clean about what had happened because they had to send us all that stuff. I had to redo everything, get it out. We lost a ton of money on that project, obviously. Could have looked really bad in front of the client. And I really expected that, he was never going to trust me again. I was never going to hear the end of that mistake. And I never heard a thing from him about it after that. And I never, felt in any way that he didn't trust me anymore. He never gave me that feeling. He just assumed that I had learned from my careless mistake and I would not make a mistake like that again. And that really taught me how to handle mistakes when people worked for me. And I've really, really appreciated everything he taught me.
Excellent. Well, thank you both for sharing.